All right, YouTube, welcome to Genshin Impact version 3.4 Phase 1 test runs. This is something that people have been asking for. I used to do this on my Twitch streams. My Twitch streams have gotten kind of crazy busy lately, so I haven't been doing them as much, but I'm going to do them this time. So the way I put them in order, I'm gonna do Yaoyao first, since she's our new 4-star character. Do Alaitham second, since he's our new 5-star character. I'll go to Xiao next for the rerun 5-star. And we'll finish off with Yunjin and then Xinyan. So, if you remember the motto that I gave you in the planning stream, great. If you don't remember, might want to watch the planning stream. Don't worry, it's right at the beginning, so you don't have to watch the whole thing. Anyway, let's go ahead and start our first test run. I have not done any of the test runs. I haven't even started any of the test runs yet. I did try to read some of the details on the characters, so you don't have to spend a whole 15 minutes of me trying to read everything. But I will try to summarize what I saw and what I think. Oh, and by the way, if you think I get anything wrong, it's probably because I did get things wrong. So feel free to leave me a comment. Um, uh, so anyway, okay. That's enough of that. Okay, so Yao Yao is a polearm wielder. Taking a look at her skills first. Normal attack. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary for that. Um, but once we get to her skill and her burst, this is where things get a little bit interesting. So basically, what she does is she throws the Yugui. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Probably gonna find out later. Um, you can hold down the elemental skill to aim it. There's a couple other elemental skills that work this way as well. Um, so nothing big there. Now, once the Yugui is out, it throws out white radishes that explode upon hitting characters or opponents, dealing dendro damage to opponents and healing characters um, based on her max HP. And then there's a bunch of stuff that explains exactly how it determines whether it's going to throw against the opponents or throw to characters. You can kind of read through that, but the most important thing is that uh, there can only be two of them on the field at the same time. At least that's how I read it. And as you might have guessed, the healing factor is scales based on her maximum HP. So my first guess, just by looking at that, is we're looking at an HP build here. Now, looking at her burst, it's mostly the same thing, except that I think that that she can throw more of them, and says white jade radishes will be changed to heal and deal damage according to this skill. So things get it's slightly different, but it's mostly to some extent. So it ends once she's off the field, and so forth. So uh, I didn't really see a whole lot of differences between this, and again the healing is scaled based on her HP. Star Scatter, when you get this one, when affected by the Moon Jade Descent, which is the burst, she will constantly throw white jade radishes at nearby opponents when she's sprinting, jumping, or running. So not only are the not only are the rabbit-looking things going to be throwing radishes, but she's going to be as well while she's in the burst. In other shoes, looks like it changes the healing factor a little bit when white jade radishes explode. One of them, I think this one is the one that makes the big radishes. I remembered reading about that. Is it this one? I'm sure we'll see it later. And then tailing on tiptoes when she's in the party, your characters will not startle crystal flies and certain other animals. I think Aloy also has this same talent, although not a lot of people have Aloy because not a lot of people play this on PlayStation. Um, so yeah, my first guess by looking at this is that we're looking at a support build with a strong HP boost. So let's see how they built her. So you can see that kind of why I was guessing. HP is pretty high. Attack is about what I would expect for a support character. Not a lot of elemental mastery, but some. So let's see what weapon they gave her. Favonius Lance, that's the one I currently have on Yunjin, so we'll be talking about that later. Um, this is good because it gives her gives her a good boost of energy recharge. The tough thing about the Favonius Lance is that if you're going to use it, you want your crit rate to be a little bit high. 26% would be kind of low. I when I built Yunjin, I think I tried to target about 50%. More is good, but you don't want to go overboard. Total energy recharge is a little bit lower than I expected. She does have a healing boost, so we'll see if we'll see if that's from. Well, we won't be able to see because it won't tell us because you can't click on these. So she has a Deepwood Memories 4-piece, which wasn't what I expected. It gives her a good Dendro boost, and it also reduces the Dendro resistance to her targets. Deepwood Memories Deepwood Memories, I guess, kind of makes sense. You would want either her to have it or maybe somebody else in the party. But I think I would have been tempted to go for Tenacity to give her that HP boost, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Favonius Lance, I think that's a good fit for her. Obviously, she doesn't have talents in the test run, so she is paired up with Zhangling and Lisa. So Lisa has the Witsith as usual, and Zhangling has Dragon's Bane as usual, and Zhangling has two pair, Noblesse and Crimson Witch, and Lisa has the 4-piece Thundering Fury. Okay, so they're giving me 2 damage dealers, and then she's kind of the lone support. Overall, I don't really know if this is how I would have built this line, but let's see. So Yugwe, I think she's pronounced it the same way I did. So you can see that that worked out pretty good. I haven't really been doing anything directly, so all the damage that's really been doing right now is just from the Yugwe and the exploding cores. Okay. I want to test her healing skill to be sure. So we're just going to leave Zhangling on the field for a little bit. Just want to get her HP down a little bit. It's going to be a little bit tough because a little bit lower because I want to see the okay, that's low enough. That's low enough. Okay, so now let's do the same thing. Well, maybe I went a little bit too low. Oops. So now we'll have to do the same thing. We won't test our luck too much. Right there. Okay. So let's. Okay. So it's going up a little bit, but you definitely don't want to rely too much on it.
Surrender and be gentle.
Okay. Uguay, okay. All right. Yeah, I think it works. I, again, I'm not really sure that. I can see right here the way that just based on how. I mean, you really want kind of maybe trying to think of exactly the way I would describe this.
Come a little closer.
You certainly would not want her to be a strong damage dealer. You'd be kind of looking for her to be a support. As far as a healer, I'm not sure that she does a whole lot. The setting up reactions actually was kind of the better part of this, in my opinion. But yeah, so for me, I have a lot of healers on my account right now. I have Barbara. I have well, Barbara is my main go-to healer. Noelle is a really good healer as well. A C6 Noelle can do just about anything in the game. A lot of people like Bennett. I think for me, Noelle is kind of like the Geo version of most people's Bennetts. I also have Bennett as well, and I have Chi Chi, and I have Jean. I I have a lot of them. I'm struggling to think of a time that I might actually want to use Yaoyao, considering the others that I already have. That's where my issue is right there. So I do know that a lot of people are looking forward to her for quite a while. I don't think that I really do think tenacity is the better way to go to give her that bigger HP boost. Um, or if you wanted to really circle the wagons around her healing factor, to go with either the Maiden or Ocean Hued Clam sets. Either of those would give her a really good boost to her healing factor. I guess it just depends on whether you want to leave the door open to her setting up elemental reactions. But even then, I think you're just gonna go for a straight up HP um, run with maybe a healing bonus as your circlet. Yeah, I'm just curious. Before I begin Alaitham,
I'll be there.
I know I have a lot of pole arms. Actually, there's an even better way to look at them. Let's just pull up the pole arm character I'm not using yet. Yeah, like Toma. So let's see what other pole arms I might be tempted to use. Um, so that's the Favonius Lance. That's what they used. And prototype Star Glitter. You wouldn't use that if you had the other one. Um, not Moon Piercer. Someone else would have the catch. You wouldn't give that to Yaoyao. So yeah, Favonius Lance is really the way to go, unless the Black Tassel's also a good idea because that would boost her HP. So I might be tempted to use the Black Tassel just to get that HP boost. Okay, probably wrong, but we'll do Alaitham now Now, given how confused I was about Yaoyao, this is really strange. I'm really waiting to see what what they did with artifacts on this. Now, I will say this: when it comes to artifacts, it's always good to look at what they do in the test runs, but just be aware that they usually don't have the best
Wait.
approach to anything with the test runs, uh, whether necessarily with the weapons or necessarily with the artifacts. So, Alaitham, normal attack. The stuff's the same as we normally see with sword users. Nothing particularly worth commenting on. Uh, then we get to the challenging things. So he can can aim his elemental skill as well. Um, when the skill is unleashed, he generates one chisel light mirror. If there are no mirrors, he generates one additional mirror. So he generates one mirror if there's already one there. He generates two if there aren't. That's what's that. When he possesses Chiselite mirrors, Alhatham's normal, charged, and plunging attacks will be converted to Dendro damage. This cannot be overwritten, and it is important. When attacks of the aforementioned kind hit opponents, the Chiselite mirrors will unleash a projection attack that deal AoE Dendro damage based on the number of mirrors on the field. A total of 3 Chiselite mirrors can exist at once. Oh, wait, back that up. If there are no mirrors, he generates one mirror. Okay, so if there are no mirrors, he generates two. If there's one, he generates another one for two. If there's two, then he generates one for three. The Chiselite mirrors will disappear one after the other over time, and will all disappear when he leaves the field. Well, he has a DPS for sure, and you can see that the mirror projection attacks scale and his rush attack both scale on attack as well as elemental mastery. So my first thought when I saw that is, okay, we're looking at an elemental mastery build. Um, but let's see if that holds up. His burst creates a particular part and deals multiple instances of AoE Dendro damage. If Chiselite mirrors exist when this ability is unleashed, all such mirrors will be consumed and increase the number of damage instances dealt 2 seconds after this ability is unleashed. So, if 0, 1, 2, or 3 mirrors were consumed, Alhaitham will generate 3, 2, 1, or 0 new mirrors in return. So basically, if there weren't any mirrors when he does this, at the end there will be 3. If there were 2 at the beginning, there will be 1 when it's done. It basically is kind of, think of it as kind of like the flip opposite side. So, and of course, if there's 3, that gives him the biggest burst damage for the elemental burst, but then you have no more mirrors. And again, the single instance damage is scales based on his attack and his elemental mastery. So this, when Alhatham's charged or plunging attacks hit opponents, they'll generate one Chiselite mirror. Of course, getting the Chiselite mirrors are important for him. So this is definitely a DPS type build because you want him. He's going to want to stay on the field as much as possible, particularly if the mirrors are in play. Each point of Alhatham's elemental mastery will increase the damage dealt by projection attacks and the elemental burst by 0.1. The damage can be increased by a maximum of 100% this way. Shortish version is maximum of 100% EM, or 1,000 EM would get you 100%. So that is how that works. And he crafts additional weapon ascension materials. I'm assuming that is when you're using the crafting station to make a more valuable weapons ascension materials from the more common ones that you got from the domains. So they went with Gilded Dreams, which I guess makes sense because when you're playing as him, you're going to need all of the EM you can get. The two-piece set gives him an automatic boost of 80. The rest of this will either give him an attack boost if he's in a lineup with other Dendro characters, or an additional 50 EM if he's in the line with other elements. So we're thinking EM, right? We're thinking EM, a reasonably high attack, of course, because so let's see how much EM they gave him. They only gave him 371, and that attack is really not that high, considering that we're thinking of him as a DPS. I would not have thought, because this is kind of at the same level as we saw with Yaoyao. That is kind of weird. And then we get to his weapon. His weapon is a crit damage weapon at full level 80, and this is a pretty high refinement one. No, it isn't. It's refinement rank one. What am I thinking? I was looking at the stars. So crit damage. Look at that number. 80.4% crit damage. That is amazing. But it isn't what you would expect to put on someone who is going to be mostly EM. But the passive crit rate is increased by 4%. That's nothing. That's less than you get by default. After normal attacks deal elemental damage, the foliar incision effect will be obtained. Remember, as normal attacks do not do elemental damage by themselves. Increasing damage dealt by normal attacks and elemental skills by 120% of elemental mastery. Again, that would be why you'd want elemental mastery to be higher. This effect will disappear after 28 damage instances or 12 seconds. You can obtain this once every 12 seconds. So I bet you're kind of wondering why, you might be wondering why we need the normal attacks to do elemental damage, or how we can make the attacks do elemental damage. The answer to that is partially the skill. Remember, while there's chisel light mirrors on the field, his normal attack, and along with his charged attacks and plunging attacks, will be converted to dendro damage and cannot be overridden. So you don't want to have. So while he's on the field, you don't want to have an instance where there are no chiseled mirrors on the field, because then he is doing just regular normal damage. So that, I guess, is kind of where they were going with this. I still think elemental mastery is still a little bit too low, even with Gilded Dreams. Now he could be on a team with 3 different elements, and that would raise it by 150 in certain instances.
Wait.
Now he is on a team with Fischl and with Barbara. Barbara would be with the prototype Amber, as she normally is in the trial runs, and a 4-piece Maiden Beloved, and Fischl Stringless, which a lot of people prefer over what I use, and a 2-piece Gladiator Finale, 2-piece Thundering Fury, which kind of makes sense. That's not how I built her, but it is a little bit more reasonable compared to what I've normally seen. So somehow along the way, they did get a pretty good average crit because they got 61.1% for crit rate. I'm imagining that had to have come from the artifacts, um, because not much of it's going to come from the sword. And then crit damage, obviously, a lot of this came from the sword. So I don't know if it needs to be that high. Um, I think that if it were me, I would probably spend a little bit less on crit damage and a little bit more on elemental mastery, um, or attack. So we'll see how this goes. I'm curious to see how this is going to work. But for the most part for this, I think I'm going to be working with Alaitham. Well, that definitely got rid of those in a hurry. There aren't any mirrors on the field right now. That should put 3 of them in.
Here you are.
Energy is recharging pretty quickly. Might be because of some support he's getting, but I don't think so. Hold on. So energy recharge is 135. Same as Fischl. Oh, Barbara's got a ton. So yeah, that would be it. Okay. All right, sure. So you can see he's doing a lot less damage when there are no mirrors on the field. There's one mirror right now. Now there are none.
How bold.
Okay. Getting a little bit too cute with our attacks. Oh, left. Okay, so this, like I said, I don't really feel like I completely agree with how they set up the artifacts. Boy, he doesn't do a lot when he does. Like, you really gotta get those mirrors in, because he does a lot of damage when the mirrors are in play, but when the mirrors are not in play, he's practically just standing there. All right, that actually worked a lot better than I expected, because I was expecting this to be a bit of a slog. But I also hadn't until now seen and that wasn't even the weapon's final. That might not have even been the weapon's final ascension, because that was level 80, and I do think it had 1 ascension left to get, so it would have gone higher than that. I can see people wanting that weapon just as it is, but I think that if you didn't have that weapon, I think you could still make a particularly good Alaitham if you just stuck to attack and elemental mastery. That's just a guess. But he does have to be on. The one thing I would say, if you're thinking of making an EM version of him, keep in mind that he does have to be on the field. So you wouldn't necessarily be able to use EM to be making a lot of reaction damage, unless you are up against elemental enemies like the slimes. But when's that? How often is that gonna be necessary? Okay. So now we're back. Now we're gonna go do the rerun. So if you're watching this for my take on the new characters, we're all done with that. I'm gonna do Xiao next. So my previous impression on Xiao, which I don't suspect has changed that is that he's an he's a there is one set of animo characters of which I firmly believe that you should try to get at least one of, and Xiao is one of them. And basically, um, okay, I might have not have quite gotten it right. Okay, when all else fails, read the directions. Okay, whirlwind thrust. So charged attack consumes a certain amount of stamina to perform an upward thrust. Wasn't that what I was doing? Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so upward thrust means he's just swinging low and then swinging up. Okay, that wasn't what I was thinking of. Okay, so skill Xiao lunges forward, dealing animo damage, can be used in midair. Okay, so it's the elemental burst where he gets where he can jump much higher, and basically what I was trying to go with that is that being able to high jump will get you through a lot of things that get you through a lot of environmental puzzles that you really can't deal with just the regular characters. Um, Xiao wouldn't be the one I would go with, and Xiao wasn't the one I went with, but he could be an option for that. We just had the Wanderer. I would put him in the same category as this. He doesn't jump as high as Xiao does when his burst is active, but he does hover, which does kind of make up for some of that. But the other two options are Venti and Kazuha. So if you're going into 3.4 and you already have either the Wanderer, um, Kazuha, or Venti, then I don't think you particularly need Xiao. But if you don't have any of them, you might want to think about Xiao. And if you still don't have any of them, then get to crafting that wind catcher that you get in Mondstadt. It's one of the gadgets, and I think you can make it. And I think you make it at the blacksmith, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so yeah, normal attack is then kind of normal for a pole arm. Um, his skill does animo damage, just as we saw, and couldn't show this off before because right now because he doesn't have any energy. But once he dons the mask, he's able to jump a lot higher, increases his attack AOE and attack damage, converts all of his attack damage to animo damage, which cannot be overwritten by anyone. The downside is that he continuously loses HP, and he loses it at right. This is the level 8 version, so he would lose it at 2% of his current HP per second. Now, before you start looking at that, looking at a duration of 15 seconds, and coming to the conclusion that he could go from 100% to 70% without getting hit. That's not exactly how this works. It's based on his current HP instead of his max HP. So the more he has, the more he loses, and there's really no way for him to go. Theoretically, there's no way for him to go all the way down to 0 because he'll never lose. He'll never lose all of his hit points. But it is a little bit of a something to think about. You would want to get his skill high so that you're not. I believe at level 1 it's 3% current HP per second. So the higher this is, the less he loses. And then there's a bunch of other stuff. He decreases climbing stamina for your party, which can help you climb some of the higher things. Yeah, there's a couple other things, but we'll just go ahead and press on. Um, his best weapon or his is primordial jade winged spear, which is what he has right now, which also happens to be what I pulled in the in on the previous weapon banner while trying to get Raiden Shogun's weapon. So I do have that, um, and it is a crit rate weapon. Um, so they have given him what, as of right now, is still his best in slot as far as I can tell. Vermilion Hereafter, which is in the artifact domain, just inside the above ground portion of the chasm, and he is joined by Barbara with all the usual stuff. You would want to have a healer in his party because he will lose hit points when he's using his elemental.
Boring.
So his normal attack doesn't seem to do a whole lot. Whereas normal attack also is out. Okay.
Worthless.
So he's out of his burst right now. I keep wanting to hit down for Barbara because that's usually the arrow that I have her assigned to when she's on my team. But yeah, this is basic. Whenever you see Xiao on a lot of other teams, a lot of what he does when his burst is active is jump straight up in the air, then plunge down. That does quite a bit. Granted, he also has that angst that a lot of people like. That particularly a lot of people who are pulling for Wanderer in the previous version. It's not my thing, mind you. It is, but it does have its appeal. So I think a lot of people will want Xiao if they don't already have him, but I think a lot of people are really wanting to go for Alaitham. I think there's probably a good way to build him. I don't think it's the way that the test run is showing. I think I would be able to figure it out if I gave it some time. If I pull him and I'm given some time to think about it. But Gilded Dreams, I think, is a good set for him. I think that's a good set for him. I think that 4 pieces. I think 4 pieces good. A part of me just wants to think about it for a little bit, but you definitely want him to be the only Dendro character on your team. All right, Yunjin next. So, if you watched my my planning video, I did go over all of all the possible 4-star characters that you can extend the invitation to once you've completed the flagship quest. Yunjin, I think, is one of the best supports out there in terms of being a battery and also just in terms of being able to defend. But let's take a look and see what. So her normal attack is just as it is normal. Her opening flourish does you can basically make a shield that absorbs damage and then reflects it. If you've ever seen Candace, I believe it works exactly the same as hers. I don't really use it that much, but that scales off of her maximum HP as far as the absorption. But as you can see from her skill attributes, you really want to have her be a very high defense character. Um, but yes, her pole arm does do quite a bit. It does a little bit of damage, but the elemental burst is, I don't, to be honest, I don't use this nearly as much as I should. Um, when normal attack damage is dealt to opponents, bonus damage will be dealt based on Yunjin's current defense. And remember, you want to give her a really good defense. Basically, your sands, your goblet, your circlet should all be defense. Don't worry about crits. Don't worry about attack. You can worry about energy recharge if you want, since she doesn't really have to do a lot of damage herself. Um, and much like Beto, she can, if she uses opening flourish at the precise moment when she's attacked, it automatically unleashes the level 2 charged hold form. So if you're good at that, you can get that going. I'm still working on that, and her normal attack damage bonus granted by her burst is further increased by a certain percentage of her defense when the party character contains characters of 1, 2, 3, or 4 elemental types respectively. So if she's in a party of all geo characters, this will do the least amount of damage. If she's the only geo character, this will do the most. And she makes extra things when cooking. That's probably the least important thing. So they got her defense pretty high. 105 EM is a little bit higher than I would want because I don't think that's important for her. Crit rate and crit damage, assuming she's not using the Favonius Lance, I think that's fine. Energy recharge, certainly would want that might be high. That might be a little bit high, but we'll see. What weapon does she have? She has the prototype Star Glitter, which gives her some of that energy recharge. Okay, so I have the Favonius Lance, but this is a little bit more forgiving if you're not willing to spend HP, or sorry, if you're not willing to build your crit rate. After using an elemental skill, increases normal and charged attack damage by 8%. That's not really gonna mean anything for her. Okay, so, and then she has 4-piece Tufts of Opulent Dreams. That's exactly what I would recommend as well. Just try to go for as much defense as you can. Energy recharge on the side if you can get it. Now she is with Noelle. Noelle has the White Blind, which is a good option for her if you are choosing to use her as a support. Now, obviously, she would also have the 4-piece Tusk, which she should have no matter whether you're using her as a support or a DPS. This is definitely a support build even for her. So yeah, I would say having had Noelle on my team for as long as I have, you'd want to build her as a support, all the way up until she gets C6. Once she gets C6, then you have to build her as a DPS. You can kind of transition her over maybe once you get to about C4, but C6 she has to be DPS. Below C4, I wouldn't. And by C6, I mean that's when you have to start giving her the crit rate stats and crit defense stats that she needs, and aside from that, when you're building Noel as a DPS, just follow the same rules as you would any other DPS. Just use defense instead of attack, and you'll be fine. This might be a little bit tricky. Have to keep in mind where they are in the. So yeah, Noel's not gonna really do a whole lot of damage. Getting crystallized for Yunjin is probably gonna. I don't know if this test run really showcases Yunjin as well as it could, but I do tend to use Yunjin and Noel together, though.
Strike is one. Steady as stone, as a dutiful maiden.
See if we can get. Oh, there we go. So yeah, the two of them together still do a pretty good amount of damage. They'll do a lot more. They'll do a lot more if you get their constellations. Oh, that wasn't the end of it either, was it? Yeah, they got her energy recharge pretty high. So that's really gonna help keep everything going.
I must leave no stone unturned.
There we go. So yeah, using Yunjin together with Noel, I think works particularly well. Yunjin is usually on the same team as Noel right now, along with I believe Yanfei and Barbara on the team that I use them together. Yeah, that's the one I use whenever I go into chasms. Okay. Bit of a misstep there.
As a good knight should.
I think we're pretty much done now. Wasn't sure about the one who went over the edge, but I guess they considered him dead. So, all right. So yeah, there wasn't that much I was going to learn from about Yunjin from that because I have used her quite a bit, and I actually recently built her back up, or built her up. So yeah, I would say the Favonius Lance, Prototype Star Glitter, either one of those I think would be fine. You wouldn't use the catch on Yunjin because someone else is going to get the catch. Either Raiden Shogun if she doesn't have her weapon, or Shangling one of those two will probably end up with the catch on your account. But now comes the tricky one, at least as far as why I perceive a lot of people consider to be tricky, and that is Xinyan. Now, I have had Xinyan on my teams for quite a while. I actually pulled her fairly early, and but her kit can really confuse a lot of people. So I want to kind of mention this a little bit before we go right into our test run. And I think it's because with a lot of the characters, a lot of the smart players out there will figure out the exact right way to build them. It's not the right when I say the right way, it's the way that most people will get the maximum value out of those characters. I always take their recommendations, look at it, usually follow them. Sometimes I look at their recommendations and say, no, I think I have a better idea. Sometimes my ideas are better, in my opinion. Sometimes I do what I want to do, and then I end up having to go back and do what they recommended in the first place. Um, but with Xinyan, I feel like the best way to describe it is to show you a Venn diagram I kind of put together, um, which is gone right now. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can pull it back up. I do not. I'm only doing this right now because I do not want to have to redo this all over again. So otherwise, I have to redo my entire um, my my entire YouTube video, and nuts to that. Well, it is up. There it is. Okay, so with Xinyan, you're looking at three things mainly. You're looking at her capability to do physical damage, her capability to do pyro damage, and her capability of being a shield defender slash support. Um, so what you want to do with Xinyan is basically relative to wherever you want to go on this Venn diagram. For me personally, I am in that intersection of physical damage and pyro damage. She does a little bit of shielding, but I have Noelle at C5, also have Zhongli. I have maybe one or two others that do shields, but I don't really need her to do shields. Her physical damage is what she does in her normal attacks. Her elemental skills and bursts are what does pyro damage. So as long as I can balance those two, I'm perfectly fine without shield defense. Now, I think a lot of people would look at this and say that they want to be right smack dab in the center, where you get the physical damage, you get the pyro damage, and you get the shield. The thing is that if you try to balance all three things together, she's not going to be a particularly good physical damage character. She's not going to be a particularly good pyro damage character, and she's not going to be a particularly good shielder. Then you're going to wonder what you did all that work for in the first place. So I wouldn't go for the center. I would take a look at what makes the most sense for how you intend to use Xinyan once you've built her. Figure out what makes sense for that particular combination, or if you're going to go strictly one thing. If you're going to go strictly physical damage, you can do that. You can go strictly pyro damage or strictly shielding, or you could do two. I would not do three. I think that's a little. I think that pushes things a little bit too much. Okay, back to the test run. I see what the problem is. Problem is, it just wants to show what's actually on screen today. Okay. So here we go. And I haven't seen her in the test run for a while, so I'm curious to remember what they did. And I'll tell you what the differences are between what they did and what I did. So again, her elemental skills can create a bit of a shield. Her shield scales on her defense, and of course her normal attack is basically a kind of like your normal stuff that you get from a claymore user. That sword that answers part of my question, and then her. I guess I should just show you. So yeah, normal attack, same thing as you normally would expect from a claymore user. This one does a quick sweep in front of her and then creates a shield, depending on how many opponents she hit with it. So you want to hit more. You want to hit more opponents to get a better shield. And again, that scales on her defense. Then Rift Revolution just basically creates kind of like a. I'm not trying to say it's kind of like a wedge, wedge shape. You'll have to kind of practice with her just like anyone else and to kind of get a sense of where that wedge is going to show up. And then as you go on, the elemental skill requires fewer opponents to get all the way up to shield level 3. And then this increases the physical damage done by any character shielded by her shield created by the elemental skill. And she makes more food when when cooking defensive dishes. So I saw the white blind. That's obvious. The value of the white blind is obvious if you're going for a really good shield. It's 80 out of 80. Is that the... Okay. So they went with the noblesse, which I guess that makes a little bit of sense. That this is basically circling the wagon around her elemental burst damage. So the 2-piece set gives her an elemental burst damage of 20%. 4-piece set, using an elemental burst increases all party members' attack by 20%. Obviously, that doesn't stack, so you shouldn't have more than one 4-piece noblesse in your party at any given time. So that's not what I'm using, but I think it does make sense because I think I know what they're trying to go for with her. Let's see her total skills. So her defense is pretty good, 2,000. Her attack is pretty high too. Her crit is not good. You wouldn't want a crit that looks like this. Even for her, energy recharge, I might want a little bit more than that, but and of course, and she doesn't have any pyro damage bonus, so she didn't go with that for her goblet. Okay, so let me pull up my handy dandy little Venn chart again. So you see see this. I think what they tried to do is they tried to strike an. It looked like they may have been trying to go for in between pyro damage and shield defense, but this really looks like something like what they tried to do is go for that center spot. Either that or they went with the evening point between pyro and shield and just went a little bit too far shield. I honestly think if you're going to build, this is just me, mind you, if you're going to build her around her skill, and I do think you need to get that, I do think that you need that pyro damage. Get that from a goblet. I think if they had that, plus this artifact set, I think this would make a little bit more sense. But you can't click on any of these to see see how they actually built it. What I do is I have a 2-piece set Bloodstained and a 2-piece set Pale Flame. What that does is that increases her physical damage, which is what she does with her normal attack. But I also have a pyro damage goblet, which boosts her pyro damage from her skills and from her elemental skill and her elemental burst. My voice is starting to go out because I'm recorded 2 videos today. Oh, almost forgot. Let's take a look at the other two characters. We have Kaya and we have Lisa. Neither one has a particularly high elemental. None of them have a particularly high elemental mastery. Lisa has the Witzith, which would be expected. 4-piece Thundering Fury. That's what I went with originally. I since adjusted to a 2-piece Thundering Fury and 2-piece Gladiator That way she could get a little bit more attack, which would allow me to. They actually did pretty good with their crit, but their energy recharge is a lot lower than mine. That's kind of the trade-off that I kind of went with was I went with an ER Sans, but then I decided to go with Gladiator as a two-piece set to give her some of that attack back. They didn't really go particularly high with attack for her. Their attack might be close to what I have. So Kaya, I never really finished building Kaya. Maybe one of these days. Favonius Sword, I think makes sense as long as he has a high crit rate. 57, close enough. This is actually a pretty, I would say probably a little low, but reasonable. Good to make sure that you've got crit rate above 50% if you have a Favonius weapon, so that you have a better chance of getting energy recharge. This maybe feels a little bit high. Does he have cryo? He does have cryo. Okay. And then, what is his artifact? 4-piece blizzard. Let's think about this for a second. So he has a pretty high crit rate, and he has a 4-piece blizzard strayer. But he's not in a party with a Hydro character. So he could attack characters affected by cryo and get 20% crit rate from that. So yeah, situationally, that could go up to 77%. I think with that, I just don't feel like he needs all that energy recharge. I feel like this build might be overselling energy recharge just a little bit too much. But other than that, I agree with 4-piece Blizzard for Kaya, and I think a 4-piece Thundering Fury kind of makes sense for Lisa. What I did might be a little bit crazy. All right, let's get things done. So you can see the shield that she generated from hitting the enemies. This does feel a little bit different compared to what I normally used to.
This moment will be frozen in time.
Use these two together. Why not? That's the worst that can happen. But yeah, I kind of feel like part of the reason why a lot of people don't recommend building Xinyan is because it's hard to have a definitive this is how you should build her. I mean, this build can work. I still think it's a little bit too. I still kind of miss that pyro damage goblin. I can tell just by playing it that's not there. So.
Well, let's spark things up a little. Don't be such a brute.
And Lisa with the nice. I don't know. This is pretty close to what I had her before, but.
You're in for a little shock.
Okay, that's done. So now comes the question of what am I going to do now? Because I was originally kind of trying to keep myself on the fence about Alaitham. I use the Dendro Traveler a lot, and I mean a lot. So now 4-piece Gilded Dreams was actually what I was originally planning to put on Lumine. I kind of shied away from it because I felt like the 4-piece set bonus wasn't as I felt like it was a little bit too variable for what I wanted it to be. Um, but I can see how that works for Alaitham. Now, when I said I was trying to stay on the fence for Xinyan, or not for Xinyan, for Alaitham, that was before I realized that they put Xinyan on the banner with Alaitham. And not only that, but you also got Yunjin on the banner as well. Those are characters I would like to get more constellation stars for. Now we are going to get the flagship event, and I'll be able to guarantee that I can get at least one of those stars. I still don't think that it's absolutely necessary to go and get Alaitham, at least for me. I'll go ahead and put my pity counts on the screen right now. I'm kind of going through this. With 14 wishes right now and 20 days, I have probably a decent chance to get all the way up to 90. I don't think I would get all the way up to 90. Right now, I would be looking at 54. And the guarantee's not in play. So I could get a 5-star pull, and it could be someone completely different. Could be another Diluc for all I know. But it might be worth a try. It might be worth a try, if only because some of those 4 stars could help a bit. I don't know if I would use Yaoyao that much, though. Just based on the trial runs, I would put her below a lot of the healers I already have. I would be interested to see what other people think, because I think that the artifact set that they gave her, I think that one was completely wrong. And I think the other ones made a lot more sense. And anyway, starting to ramble a little bit. So I will just end the video right here. If you liked this video for whatever reason, please leave a like. And if you want to see more videos, please subscribe to his channel. And if you want to see me play Genshin Impact Live, please follow me on Twitch. Have a good time with Genshin Impact version 3.4. Good luck on your pulls if you decide to go for anything or anyone. And I will see you in the next video.